Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Barreras, and I'm the marketing manager at Parallel 18. Today, we are with Juan Camilo González, founder of Figuro and a Gen X alumni. Hi, Juan Camilo, and thank you for joining.
Hey, Lisa, so happy to be here with you.
Thank you, thank you. So before deep diving into the conversation with Juan Camilo, I'll go over the offering for P18 Gen 11. And as you might have been hearing or reading in our social media platforms, for P18 Gen 11, we will be offering in funding $60,000. So selected startups will receive $40,000 in equity-free funding and a $20,000 investment to a simple agreement for future equity or safe note. Also, selected startups will receive access to our active investor network, business connections, perks, co-working space free of charge, and many more. So we are here today because we want applicants to hear the experience of an alumni that actually have been through our programs. In this case, Juan Camilo, who was part of our 10 cohort for P18. So Juan Camilo, tell us a little bit more about you, about Figuro, what's your startup about, and what services do you offer with Figuro?
Okay, so I'm Juan, I'm the CEO of Figuro. Figuro is a Colombian startup that's focused in revolutionizing the insurance industry in the region. So basically what we do is streamlining the process of buying and managing insurance policies for individuals. So it's a service that includes personalized insurance recommendations, free from the biases that traditional agents may have when selling insurance, and a fully digital experience for quoting, binding, and even providing assistance to our clients.
Nice, nice. So as part of the Gen X cohort, what will you tell was the most valuable thing that our program offers? How did P18 help you to continue growing your company? And if can you describe Figuro before and after going through P18?
Wow, there are lots of things there, and it's difficult to select just one most valuable thing. I would say the most valuable aspect of the program was the access not only to the resources, obviously, but to the mentorship. And I would say to this reporting routine that we had with the whole team of Parallel 18 that helped us like accelerating our company. So I would say like before Parallel 18, like we were doing amazing things, but maybe we didn't have this habit of every week look at the main indicators, the main KPIs, and make sure that we were like working on moving the needle where it had to be moved. And this was something that we really learned in P18, and we even continued doing after the program. So I think that was one of the most amazing things from P18. And well, the results are that, I mean, we have grown significantly since joining Parallel 18, and we even raised our pre-seed round during the program. So yeah, it was amazing.
Nice. So keep in mind that for Gen X, we gave an equity-free grant of $125,000 plus an investment of $25,000. So as Camilo mentioned, I asked him which one was the main or the most valuable thing, and he didn't say the money. So of course the money is very much needed and it helps a lot. But as we have been saying in other conversations, here in Parallel 18, you have another, added value like the mentorship, the networks, and the structure that the program give to the founders. So it's important, and it's curious because he of course went through that way. So that's awesome, because that's something that we always mention, that yes, the money is important and it's there for startups to use it, but the added value has more and more value than maybe the money like that. So you mentioned the pre-seed round that you were able to to start. So we at Parallel 18 have a sub-program specifically dedicated to offering our startups advice, connections to our investor database, and support on the raise to raise funds. So how valuable was this program for you during P18?
I would say, I mean, it was definitely valuable. First, because the advice and the mentors that the program brought to the sessions that we had for discussing fundraising, well, were super valuable. And it really helped us, I would say, specifically in designing the fundraising strategy and initiating the process. I know also that there were some things that the team of Parallel were like testing with our generation.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that if it was valuable to us, even when there was some tests, well, probably you have taken all the feedback received from us and enhance or improve that process. So I'm sure it will be even more valuable for the next generation. But I mean, definitely, Parallel is a key player in the ecosystem in Puerto Rico, and you can see that in every single meeting and event where you have all these investors from the region that know who Parallel 18 is. And that's something that will help you planning for fundraising.
Yes, that's the goal with Gen 11. So also, we always mention the term growth. We are looking for startups to be able to grow during the program. And one of the most effective ways to do so is to connect them with big local and international companies. So Parallel 18 Connects, which is another sub-program that we have, makes this possible by hearing and learning the needs of each one of the startups to make possible introductions to potential clients or partners. So was this something valuable for Figuro? Were you able to make any impactful connections in Puerto Rico or outside Puerto Rico during the program?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that's going to depend also on your like priorities as a startup. And for us, I mean, we were super B2C focused when we arrived to the program, but we like made the most out of this opportunity, and we started like connecting with, for example, top executives. I'm talking about C-level executives from companies like Mafre in Puerto Rico. We also connected with insurance companies, like international insurance companies, like Munich Re. So it's interesting because you have a team dedicated to scout companies and business opportunities or just introduction opportunities. So you can have these conversations and start learning from I don't know, how do they work in countries like Puerto Rico? How do they work in Europe? What are they looking in Latin America? So yeah, I mean, for us, that allowed us to get insights from different markets and then think, how could we integrate these insights or cultivate the relationships for when the time comes and it's time to do something with them.
Nice. And that's that last thing that you mentioned about creating connections maybe for the future. It's also one thing that we are very we like to do that a lot in Parallel because we are a community-based program. So one of the most valuable things of our programs in general is the ability to create those communities beyond borders and the access to the entrepreneurial ecosystem in and outside Puerto Rico. So as we always say, once a P18er, always a P18er. So are you still involved with the Parallel 18 community at some point, for example, with the mentors or the Parallel 18 team or other startups in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we remain actively involved with some mentors. For example, there's specifically one mentor that became a personal mentor and then a company advisor. And I mean, his help has been like super valuable to us. But we also keep in touch with you, with all the team from Parallel 18, either via Slack, WhatsApp, like knowing what are the events that are happening in Puerto Rico, or even if you are outside of Puerto Rico, the connections we can have, for example, with events like the South Summit in Brazil. So, I mean, there are lots of ways to keep in touch, and definitely with the rest of startups. I mean, in the end, like we ended up making amazing friends from Chile, from Uruguay, from Colombia, inside the program. So I would say that's another thing that's super valuable, and you never talk about that, but it's super valuable, the communication and the relationships you make with other startups.
Yeah, you end up being clients one another, so it's it's amazing
definitely.
to see that those connections. You became family. So so you mentioned the mentors. Now talking a little bit about mentors, we have a network of more than 200 active mentors in our programs. So for Gen X, we had mentors like Holly Shen, who has been growth advisor for companies like Slack, Google, and Miro. So how will you rate the selection of mentors? Would you say it was aligned with the needs, not just for you, but for all the startups in general?
Yeah, I would say it was excellent. And there are some things you can make like actively to make sure that happens if you're going to be part of the program. And there are other things that happen in a more passive way. So I would say for us, I think we made a good work assessing the needs of the startup. I mean, when we entered the program, there was a long survey that we needed to submit, and there was a huge part around mentors, and I think we made a good work, like thinking, okay, if we can ask for any kind of mentorship, what are the needs that we have right now around anything, fundraising, product, sales, B2C strategies, etc., etc. And I think it worked, because I mean, in the end, there were lots of really interesting people, and I mean, super experts in their fields. And in the end, that was super valuable and super helpful for us. As I said, one of them even ended up being an advisor for the company. So that would be like the first thing I would advise anyone that's going to Parallel to do, to make sure you ask for these mentors. And then, well, you have all the database of all these mentors that you just can go consume. And if you want to contact one of them, you just can text them. And it's amazing how they respond. I mean, at first I was like, well, I mean, maybe it's just a database. They're super busy. Probably they're mentors of 3 other acceleration programs. But they really like have a connection with Parallel. And when you text them, they're going to give you office hours, and they're going to be there whenever you need. So that was a key resource for us. Yeah.
Yes. And this is possible because, as we have mentioned before, people, when they're applying, they're used to ask about mentors, about topics, curriculum, etc. So we don't have that data yet, because we wait until we have the startups that we select, and then based on the industries, the type of business, their needs, etc., we with that information, we set up the curriculum, the mentors, the topics that we're going to cover. So that's why we do this, because we want to fulfill the needs of the startups for each generation. And also, as Juan Camilo mentioned, even though you have mentors maybe in the community platform that you see on the platform, but you don't see them in the curriculum, don't worry, because they are all active mentors for Parallel. And as Juan Camilo mentioned, you can just send them a message throughout the platform, and they're for sure they will be able to take a few minutes or some time to hear you out and to help you. So that's also important to mention. So Let's talk a little bit about the application, because we have a lot of people applying at this moment. They're going crazy because it's long, it's detailed, it's a very deep application. It has a lot of detail, but trust me, that's your first impression. You want to do it right, so the judges can fully understand what your startup is about. So the innovation factor is probably the one that has the greatest weight for judges when evaluating applications, because we always look for companies that have some innovative component. So in the case of Figuro, you manage a traditional business. You work with insurances, so it's a very traditional business. How did you highlight the innovation factor in the application for your company? Can you give some advice for those that are still applying or interested in applying on how to spotlight or highlight that specific component in the application?
Sure. I think we focused on what wasn't working in the industry, regardless the geography, and I think that was an interesting thing. We didn't think locally, like, yeah, in Colombia this is happening. We highlighted first what was the problem that was happening not only in Colombia but also in Mexico and in Puerto Rico. That's also a key thing. And then we focused on how our technology was solving that. Well, probably first in Colombia, because that was our headquarter. But then how scalable this technology was. I mean, how this technology could also be applied in a region or a territory like Puerto Rico, or in Mexico, or in Brazil, or in Chile. And then also how our technology simplified and modernized the traditional industry. So it's like how I am clearly different to the traditional side of the business. How even when I'm working or doing things in a super traditional industry, I can be super different, and I have a technology that's scalable and that can work in different geographies, like beyond my first country. So my advice for applicants would be to clearly articulate what's the unique value proposition from my startup, and then the impact of my technology on this market, even if it's a traditional industry, and how my technology solves the pain that these users have, and how these users are not just like Colombian users or Mexican users or Chilean users or Argentinian users, but it's something that goes beyond geographies. I think those would be the key points I would focus on to show the innovation factor. And I would add to that, if you have other innovation factors like beyond technology, I would concentrate first in technology, because I mean, in the end, that's going to guarantee most of the scalability of your business. But if you have other innovations factors, make sure you highlight them. So, for example, I have a different focus in the marketing strategy. So I don't go and do what everyone else is doing. I'm doing this thing differently, because if I do this differently, I have an edge, a competitive advantage compared to all the other competitors. So I would start by technology, and then start stressing or focusing on all the other factors, having in mind that it must be something that can be taken to other places.
Yes, and you mentioned a lot of the term scalability, and that's one of the requirements for startups to apply, because as we always look for innovative companies, we need to be sure that you have a company that have a scalability factor, one that easily replicates to other markets. So that brings me to asking you, being a LATAM startups, how valuable was the opportunity for you to test your product in Puerto Rico that offers the structure and the protection of the US legal framework and a hybrid culture?
I think it's really valuable because even when most of the founders know that they should incorporate, for example, in the US, well, unless your product is thought and designed for the US, you never think about the US. We usually think about, I'm going to be in Colombia and Mexico and then Brazil, and that's like the typical plan for expanding your startup. But what's interesting is that once you go to Puerto Rico, well, you have, I mean, people that speak Spanish but understand perfectly how the US works. So there are lots of opportunities to connect to lawyers, accountants, and mentors in these areas that will teach you not only the advantages that Puerto Rico has in terms of taxes, and well, there are lots of, there was a session, just like a whole session, I think in the first week or the second week of the program, where you discover all the things that you can do in Puerto Rico and how you can benefit of this legal framework. But also it's an opportunity for you to get close and understand what being incorporated in the US really mean, and how can you make the most out of it. And to assess, I would say, if the US makes sense for your plans. And if so, how valuable is to have a territory that has lots of things like similar to our countries, because I mean, in the end, like we are Latinos, but it's part of the US. So it's like the entry opportunity to explore the US market without paying the enormous cost that would take to go directly to the US.
Nice, nice. And that's the purpose of it. That's one of the things that we always said, that is one of the valuable things of coming, because remember, for those that are watching this video, we asked for the selected startups to move to Puerto Rico for 5 months at least. Hopefully you can stay, but it's a requirement for the program, because it's a completely in-person program, so it's important. And trust me, you're gonna have fun, you're gonna like it here. The weather, the nightlife, and of course the everything related to your startup and the program. So that's important to mention. So let's I'm gonna ask you one last question just to wrap it up. Do you have any other well, will you advise any early stage startup to apply? You can be honest, truly. And do you have any additional advice, to what you already said about when filling the application, anything that works for Figuro to finally get selected? The floor is all yours.
Yes. I mean, I would definitely encourage early stage startups to apply. We have, since we were in Puerto Rico, and we were talking with lots of founders, we were telling them like, hey, this is a really interesting program. There's a thing I really like about P18, and it's that, well, you guys have spent a considerable amount of time planning all the curriculum and all the program. And I think you have balanced, or you have found a balance between the workshops and all these related activities and the time for us as founders to work in our startup and do things. The infrastructure you have is amazing. So it's not like I'm gonna be in the middle of nowhere trying to find how to work. You have amazing offices, like the office space is amazing. The mentors, the connections, your availability to solve any problem you may have. And that's something, it's not that easy to find in other acceleration programs. And trust me, I have been in lots of acceleration programs in the past. So I mean, those would be the reasons why I would encourage early stage startups to apply. Make sure that, I mean, your company's movement also matches what P18 is looking for. If you are Series A, well, maybe you need to find another program. This can be a great program where you still, if you have the necessity to accelerate your startup, concentrate on developing product, on solving some key issues before scaling, before going like doubling down on your on growth and all these things. And my advice would be, again, to be clear, to be concise about what's your value proposition, how your technology is different and makes your business scalable, what's the market, and why Puerto Rico makes sense for your company's plans. I would say some of you can think that, I mean, you need to tell Parallel that you will open in Puerto Rico and that's going to be your next big country, and that's the way you get in. I would say that could be an error. That could be like a mistake. From the beginning, for example, we were clear that Puerto Rico made a lot of sense for us to test the US market and to know the US market. And why also the insurance market was so dynamic in Puerto Rico that for Colombian startup, it made so much sense to go and discover what was being done in the island. So it's not just a thing that you need to say like, yeah, I'm going to be huge in Puerto Rico. It's how Puerto Rico makes sense for your company's plans. And well, yeah, show how your startup can make a significant impact and how Parallel 18 can help you achieve that. If you have these things, I mean, that's it. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's true. In the application, there's a question about your plans for Puerto Rico. It doesn't mean necessarily, like Juan Camilo said, you don't need to go over it, telling, because trust us, we have that application in our files, and then we're gonna say, hey, you said here that you were gonna open
Exactly.
5 businesses in Puerto Rico and you haven't done that. So it's not like that, but it's just for us to know why Parallel 18 and Puerto Rico makes sense for your startup, as Juan Camilo said. So that's very important. And again, the application round closes on April 26th. Midnight Puerto Rico time. So we don't accept applications submitted after that day. So please be sure to submit your application. We usually recommend to do it, for example, the day before, because we know that maybe we have power issues, technology issues. So be sure to hit that submit button on time. So you have until April 26th, midnight Puerto Rico time. You can access the application throughout www.parallel18.com. You're gonna see like a pink banner, what it says applied now. Go there, you're gonna open a landing page with all the information regarding Gen 11, the offering, the requirements, and everything related to the application. So again, www.parallel18.com. And you can also stay tuned to our social media platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. P18 Startup is the handle. So we are gonna be, we have been posting a lot of information, and we're gonna keep doing that until the last day of the application round. So again, April 26th, www.parallel18.com. Juan Camilo, thank you a lot for your time, for your compromise with the program. So everyone, thank you again. If you have any questions, doubts, concerns, you can send us an email to info@parallel18.com or send us a direct message through the social media platforms, or just visit us. We are located in Santurce, 18 stop. It's a coincidence, trust me. So thank you again, Juan Camilo. Take care. And
thank you, Lisa. You too.
For your availability.
Thank you. Thank you.